Hi everyone. My life. Oh, hi everyone. My name is Danning. I'm a third year medical student at U of T. Today I'll be doing the live Q&A session for MD consultants. So, my academic background is that I did my undergrad in life sciences at U of T. I did not do any master's or postgrad programs, applied to medical school out of fourth year and got in. My experiences applying to medical school, it was a wild ride. I decided to apply, I think, halfway through first year of undergrad, which means I was scrambling to get my GPA up. The hardest part for me was probably maintaining a high GPA, especially at U of T undergrad. It was pretty tough for me. I applied to 5 Ontario schools, McGill and U of Calgary, I believe. I interviewed at all 5 Ontario medical schools and got into 3, and now I'm at U of T. I did my MCAT in the summer after my second year. I think that's the best time for me because I had just done all the basic science classes in school and everything was still fresh on my mind. I also thought that had I failed or had I not done well in second year summer, I always have a second chance in third year summer. I was not very keen on taking the MCAT twice in the same summer because it's so, draining. So I have a list of questions that I'll be answering regarding medical school applications. If you have any questions during the taping, please feel free to ask them in the comment section below and I'll answer them for you live. If you weren't able to make the live taping and have a question that wasn't answered, leave a comment or email info@mdconsultants.ca. Okay, so again, the email is info@mdconsultants.ca. So here's the first question that I have. What advice can you give to medical school applicants? I would say probably the best advice is to start early. If you know med school is where you want to go, you should start planning early. This includes extracurriculars, research, all the kinds of activities that you do outside of just pure academia at school. And in terms of application, like the actual process of application, you should also start early. A few of the schools, including U of T, Western, now have essays that you need to write. And the more iterations of these essays you go through, the better they will be when you submit them. I think it's a terrible, terrible idea if you leave the essays to the last minute because they're almost guaranteed to be not good enough. So that's probably the number one piece of advice. Another thing is you should try to, you should try to be confident, have faith in yourself. Many students that I meet, they think they're not good enough, and that results in them not including all of the activities on the ABS, basically underselling them. And a lot of the application is about packaging in the sense of how you frame your activities and experiences. We all learn from our activities and experiences. We all grow from them, and it's just a matter of how you describe them, how you talk about them, how you reflect on how much you learn and how much you grew from the activity, and all of that reflection, all of the even coming up with the experiences you want to talk about takes time, as well as faith in yourself. Okay, how can I stand out as an applicant? I think through stories. Because like it's just that if it's just statistics, you look at it and then you forget. It's personal stories that make people remember you, especially for the schools that give you an opportunity to do essays. You should not just talk about, theoretical, like what do you believe, what you would do hypothetically. I would rather talk about a story from your past experience, what you did, what you learned, how you grew from that, what skills you developed, how's that going to help you in medicine, rather than just say, oh, you know what, I'm a average applicant or like above average applicant with high MCAT and high GPA. Okay, I'm getting a question in the comment section that says, do you have any tips for the Casper test? Yes. Practice, practice, practice. And I know, like, Casper is an exam where everybody tells you there's no correct answer. And maybe for the most part, there are no correct answers, but there are better answers. And you only know what answers are better through practice and getting feedback from people. I know a lot of people practice with their peers, which I personally am not a fan of because I'm not sure how much more experience your peers have over you. For me, when I was applying, I actually hired consultants who gave feedback on my Casper performance, practiced many exams, many questions. I got criticized a lot by my consultant, but I learned from the mistakes. And the actual Casper test was actually very much like the practice that I had. Uh, Other than that, not really. Casper it's like a personality test. Enjoy it. It's a fun exam. I really liked it. Mac made it very welcoming. Okay, next question. Oh, I'll elaborate a little bit more on how do you stand out as an applicant. So, different schools like different things, right? So, you probably have heard that U of T likes research. So, if you have some research publications, that's going to make you stand out. Uh, I believe Queens likes grades. Not very sure, but it's things like that. McMaster likes your cars to have a high score on the MCAT. Same for Western. So if you have a high score, that's gonna make you stand out. But this is more school specific. Some schools focus on extracurriculars. Some schools focus on grades. You would have to find out by yourself from their websites or from people who go there. Third question, due to the pandemic, do you think there will be less emphasis on extracurriculars since we are being encouraged to stay home? Not necessarily. I think even if the school says there will be less emphasis, you can imagine your peer competitors, your peer applicants are gonna still be doing many things that you probably want to match them for. And also, like, theoretically speaking, staying at home doesn't mean there's less opportunity or fewer opportunities. You have seen, at the beginning of the pandemic, so many students rose to do, I don't know, like 3D printed PPE. They did food drive, they did PPE drive, they did, like, these are all student-led initiatives, right? If other people can do it, technically you can do it too. Now, it is different in COVID because different people have different priorities in life. Some people might have gotten sick. Sorry, I just need to reply to this message. Company is not sure if I'm live. I'm live. I'm right, like you people can see it. Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to. I'm gonna send this link to the company. Okay, so I'm getting message from comment section saying that I'm alive. Maha, I'll answer your question in one sec. Was I in the middle of something? Yes, I was talking about extracurriculars. Yeah, I was saying that people have different priorities because some people might have gotten sick, some people might have people who are at home who's sick they need to take care of. And I think that's, nobody can fault you for that. Nobody's going to expect you to be fighting COVID and then doing something else. So I think the expectations will be different. And again, this is like my personal view. I have no idea what the schools are actually going to do. I think the expectations will be lower, I think. Um, uh, Although, again, like it's mainly your competitors who decide what you should do, not just the school's expectations, right? In terms of looking for extracurricular activities, you should look for whatever is available, like and things that you're interested in, first of all, and then the virtual opportunities. You'll be surprised how many things can be actually converted online, um, uh, either research remotely or, doing something for COVID, I guess. Okay, next I'll answer Maha's question. Anything you would suggest for somebody in grade 8 now and interested in medical school? Grade 8 is early. It's good that you are deciding on medical schools, so early. I think that's gonna put you at a very distinct advantage. The next step for you would be to pick which undergrad program you would like to go to. And obviously, there are pros and cons for different undergrad programs. I'm sure that if you research a little bit, you'll find out which are the most popular amongst pre-meds in Ontario. And some of those programs are pretty hard to get into. So starting grade 8, gives you a advantage in terms of getting in. If you are interested in competitive specialties of medicine, uh, there are people who start probably as early as high school. I personally did not start that early, but like I'm not going to talk about what specialties are competitive because it might completely be different by the time you are in medical school. But if you just research a little bit, you can find people who start their, planning pretty early. I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, you can give me a comment. Okay, how many schools did I apply to and how many hours did I spend on each application in total? I applied to 5 Ontario medical schools, so all schools except for NOSM, the Northern Ontario School of Medicine, and University of Calgary, as well as McGill. I did not apply to many out of province. I'm a resident of Ontario. I did not apply to many out of province schools because I thought my chances were not great. And as you know, medical school applications are expensive. I checked all the schools though, all the English speaking schools I checked. I checked what their admission criteria were. I checked what kind of student population they're looking for. Like some schools only have 5 spots for out of province applicants, and I just thought, I wasn't gonna cut it. So I mostly applied to Ontario schools, and it was true. I didn't get interview at either U of Calgary or at McGill. Okay, how many hours did I spend on each application or in total? That really depends on the school. So some of you may know, especially applicants, you'll know that you apply through the Ontario Medical School application system called OMSAS. Every school have different criteria. You fill out the form once and it's used for all schools. And for some schools, that's it. That's all you're gonna need to do. So for me, those schools were McMaster, Queen's, and Ottawa. For them, I just filled out my ABS and that was it. So that took, I don't know how long, like maybe an hour. I spent some time on editing ABS, so maybe 3-4 hours at max. And then for schools like U of T had 4 essays when I applied. I believe still the case now. No, wait, there's more now. Oh, it's 4 essays plus 3 extended ABS essays, so 7 essays. For that, obviously, I'm gonna spend more time, right? Because I need to write my essay, have them edited, edit them again myself, read them over. Um, I believe I started U of T essays pretty early on. As soon as OMSA's system was live, I registered and I had the essay topics pretty early on, and I spent a chunk of time thinking of what stories I was gonna write about to each of these questions. Once I had the stories, I wrote the essays, maybe in middle of August, I think. And then everything was ready by middle of September for me because I didn't want to wait until the last minute and be like, oh, I missed this, missed that. I've seen students who spend about, for now, for U of T and Western combined, Western has a requirement for at least 4 essays, so 4 clusters, at least 1 essay each, max of 2 essays each, which means you're gonna write about 4 to 8 essays. I've seen students spend anywhere between 10 to 15 hours on those essays alone, apart from Casper and ABS, so you should plan accordingly. Okay, would you recommend to applying to as many medical schools as possible? It depends. To me, it's a cost benefit calculation, right? Like I mentioned, some out of province schools only accept 5 applicants from other provinces, and their application fee is like $200. That's just not worth it for me. I don't think I was gonna cut it, so I was not gonna spend the $200. But for some people, it was worth it, right? People say like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If you think you have a shot, you are willing to shell out the $200. I would say apply to as many as you can. Now, when I say as many as you can, it takes into account obviously the finances as well as how much time you can spend on doing an application. So if you want to stay in Ontario, obviously you're gonna prioritize your Ontario applications. And if the U of T and the Western applications are going to take you 20 hours in total, then how much time are you going to have for other schools, right? So maybe applying to U of Alberta is financially feasible and you think you have a good shot, but you just don't have the time to put into their application, then it's also useless. You should also think about like for which school do you have the best chance. Again, like I mentioned before, each school have their own priorities to look for on the application. If you have the best shot at U of Alberta and you're out of province, then go ahead, apply. If that's not the case, then you need to plan your time accordingly. Spend the most time and resources and money, what have you, on the school that you have the best shot at. Okay, what is the hardest part about medical school applications? Realistically, it was writing the essays and packaging myself in a way that was the most effective, I would say. So I talked about how I spend a lot of time coming up with stories, experiences for the essays that they ask for. So that was pretty hard because, we don't do self-reflections on a day-to-day basis. We don't just look back in our life and be like, especially in your 20s, you don't look back in your life and be like, oh, what did I do? What did I learn from this? How did I grow from this? So getting into that mindset, thinking of the experiences that you went through, what's, suitable for the essays, was hard for me. I would also say, like, echo what I said earlier. Another very hard thing for me to do was to believe in myself that I can do it. yeah, you feel like it's a long shot to get into med school, especially there are so many applicants, and you see people on pre-med 101 with like MCAT 520 plus, GPA of 4.5 on a 4.0 scale, and you think, geez, there's no way that I'm gonna get in. And when you have that mindset, it changes how you approach everything. It changes how you, prepare your application. It changes how you describe yourself. You might not notice it, but subconsciously everything's different. And when you have that confidence, things change for the better. And I now tell my students, if you don't believe in yourself, no one's gonna believe in you. If you don't think you deserve to get in, no one's gonna think that you deserve to get in. So the right amount of confidence is crucial for applying. I've also seen, people on the other end of the spectrum, they're being too cocky. They think, oh, there's no way I'm not gonna get in, and then they write the essays, they present themselves with the application like as if they're already in med school, and that's also not gonna fly. So finding that sweet balance spot for yourself, I find is crucial. Can you provide any advice for the ABS? Yes. Each ABS entry only has a 150 characters limit, which means you're gonna write 2 to 3 sentences the most. I suggest one sentence on what you did, because quite frankly, people care less about what you did compared to what you learned. So the larger part, or the second part of the ABS description, I always tell students to write a lesson. What did you learn from this? How did you grow? What skills did you develop? How's that going to help you in medical school? Well, you can't fit the last part in the 150 character, but the lesson is what's crucial. I don't really care if you worked as a chef or a cashier at McDonald's. I want to know what your work experience at McDonald's, how it helped you. Maybe you learned to work with strict management. Maybe you learned to teamwork, and those are the skills that are transferable. You frying burgers is not transferable to medical school, but you learning to work with other people, that's transferable, and that's what they want to know in ABS. Now, in terms of what to put on ABS, my suggestion is everything. Anything and everything you can think of. I know they say like from age 16 and up, and that's what you should do. You got an award from high school in grade 11, great, put it on. You got a recognition from some place that you think no one's gonna care about, great, put it on. You worked the minimum wage job for 3 years, great, put it on. Like, you learn everything. You learn things from everything. There's no fault in recognizing yourself and listing your experiences and getting the credit for them. How did I prepare for the Casper exam is the next question. I think I already answered a little bit of that. For the Casper, I studied. Well, I didn't quite study. It's hard to study for the Casper. I just practiced a lot. I believe I did 7 or 8 practice exams, and they're commercially available. I paid very handsome money for someone who has experience of marking Caspers to correct me on what I did, and got feedback for every exam that I took. Practiced whatever questions or types of questions that I was weak at, and took the exam. Okay, and then I have the last question, which is last piece of advice for applying to medical school. Maybe that don't despair if you don't get in the first time. So many people get in after, the second, third time applying, and in the end, it doesn't really matter. Once you're in, you're in. It doesn't matter how you got there, If some people do a grad school program before applying, that's good too. Like, all the things that you go through, even if you don't get in this year or the first time you apply, that means you're gonna have other experiences in the year that you are not in medical school, and that experience is going to help you one way or another in the future. Um, and just don't think that not getting in the first time or not getting in the second time does not say that you're not a good enough person. It just means you're not ready for medical school, or that you're not ready by the system that they're measuring by. Um, so just if this is really what you want, keep trying. Again, like in the end, we're all in the same place. Who cares if you apply 3 times? Who cares if you are the first time applicant? If you're in, you're in. And that would be my last piece of advice. I'm gonna check the comment section. I don't think there's any more questions, so I'm gonna sign off. Again, if you have any questions that wasn't answered in this session, you can email it to info@mdconsultants.ca, and the questions will get relayed to a consultant. All right, best of luck applying, and have a great rest of the day.